So I was watching Summer League and I saw Kobe Bufkin appear in my view. And I was like, okay, cool. I know Kobe Bufkin. But then I thought to myself and I'm like, do I really know who he is? Like as a player, as a person, all these things that I find interesting. Do I really know who said player is? And that sort of gave me an idea to do a different type of video. And that was to kind of basically dive into who a player is in a generic sort of sense. In the sense that you get handed, basically think of it like a case file. You get handed a case file as a detective on your desk and you're like, what's in the case? What's in the case of Kobe Bufkin? Like, who is he on the court? Who is he at college, at Michigan? What's his career looked like so far? So I want to dive into players just a bit more, just to actually understand who they really are. And I find that quite interesting. So hopefully you do too. And let me know if this is of interest or if this is a good piece of content. So Kobe Bufkin, Atlanta Hawks guard, entering his third season. As mentioned just then, I was looking at him at Summer League and I was like, okay, I've seen him around a fair bit. As mentioned, it's his third season, so you kind of get to know these guys. You get to know their faces, what their like is, what their game is, sorry. But then you have to think about it a bit more. And I'm like to myself, like, oh yeah, I know him. But I'm like, do I really know who that man is? So that gave me the idea of this concept, as I explained before. But I'm keen to just try it, see what happens, see how I go, and just see how it's reciprocated. If that is the right word. But at a headline, so there's a few categories. I'm going to go like a headline, what the consensus thinks of a player like Kobe Bufkin. Kobe Bufkin's like my guinea pig. One here. So congratulations to you. Headline, what people think of him as like a standpoint. If you just search Kobe Bufkin, and what do you reckon the consensus would think? Then the facts, who is he? How many years he's been playing in the league? His height, all that stuff. Not literally like going one by one into, his height, his date of birth or something, but just at a glance, just to paint the picture of who this person is, because that's what this concept is. It's really just like a player profile glance, a case file. You look at the potential, who can they become in this league? That's what I find really interesting. So you go from the facts to the review. What do people say about him online? What do I think about him when I'm watching film? That type of stuff. Recent activity. What has he been doing as of late? Like, cool. We look at his college stuff. That's cool. That's great. But what is he doing as of late? What do I need to know right now? What has he been doing in the past 6 months, 12 months, 1 month? That type of thing. The person is who they are, really, behind sport. Who cares about sport for this segment? Like, I've got who Kobe was named after. You may be able to guess it. But things like that nature. What are they like as a family person? Do they have brothers and sisters? Like, just notably interesting information, nothing too crazy. Well, I'm not going to dive into all the boring stats, but just like kind of interesting facts that really builds up the profile of this player as a person. Work ethic, maturity, characteristics, off-court things. Then we dive into some quotes. I really like the quote side of things because it actually paints a picture. It's all fine and well for someone like me to sit here and be like, hey, I think this is Kobe Bufkin, but what is his Atlanta Hawks GM, Landry Fields, he's no longer working there. But what did he think of him previously? Analysts, ESPN, Ringers? Most of them. Multiple of them. But what does the Ringer think of him? What does like known staff who have watched Kobe Bufkin over the years and worked with him actually think of him? Final ones, reaction. What do I think about after looking at all these information and things that I found, some interesting facts, and then just my final thoughts about who he is. Sound good? Good. All right, so at a headline grab, who is Kobe Bufkin? He's a late lottery combo guard who hasn't really been able to find his feet in his first 2 seasons in the NBA. But I want to know, once you read that headline, you're like, okay, cool, but why? Why hasn't he been able to find his feet? Is it skill, health, injury, fit, team? I don't know, something, personal situation. Or is there no real explanation as to why? Maybe it's just a matter of time. Maybe he's just not a good fit on the team or the league or something. This is really interesting to me. Those parts are interesting. So that's why I want to dive into a player like Kobe Bufkin. And why, you might ask, why would I choose a player like Kobe Bufkin? Because those guys are kind of more interesting. Imagine if I dived into Luka Doncic here. Sure, I might be able to pull some facts that people might not know about him. Maybe. But chances are you know a hell of a lot more about a Luka Doncic than you do a Kobe Bufkin. And chances are I do as well. So that's why I'm doing this. I want to dive into those guys a bit more and really understand him, because it's kind of cool when you think about it. If I do this and like fully understand sort of Kobe Bufkin's situation, then he has a breakout season next year. It's kind of cool to know where he came from, the struggles, like even where he was. Like, was this did he show signs of this, or was just like this out of the blue? That type of thing. I find those storytelling moments really cool, and being on the journey, quote unquote, with them, really cool. So the facts: he's 21 years old. He's entering his third season. He's the 15th overall pick in 2023, so pretty high. Late lottery pick. Wait, I actually think he's 16. Let's actually Google that. Just got a fact check here. As I'm saying, I'm learning about these guys at a proper drafted. No, 15. Never mind. For some reason, 16. Anyway, moving on. 15 overall back in 2023. He only played 27 games across 2 seasons. That is the first real inkling. This is like when you find a fact that comes across your desk on the case file. You're like, oh, it's starting to make sense now. Maybe why we haven't seen why Kobe Bufkin hasn't found his feet in this league. It's the first inkling. It's the first lead, as they say. Only played 27 games across 2 seasons, largely due to injury and some like G League stints and, not being up to the competition, I am sure. But as we dive more into it, you'll see why with the injury side of things. He's a 6'4" combo guard. It's a pretty good size, but you will see, if you haven't seen some highlights of him and whatnot, pretty skinny frame. So maybe that's holding him back. 10 games last season only due to a shoulder injury. And during those 10 games, I mean, he was on the court. It's not like he was getting DNPs 12 minutes a game. Averaged 5.3 points per game, 2 rebounds, 1.7 assists, nothing too crazy, as I said, in 12 minutes per game. Career high fits nicely in that 12 number. He's only ever scored 12 points. That's his career high. So what I take from that, not to shade him or anything, actually anyone in the NBA is nothing. You can't do anything but congratulate them and celebrate them doing that. But he hasn't really had a breakout game yet, is my takeaway from that. Review. As I said, 6'4", good size. Skinny frame, but that size means you're pretty good defensively, and that's what people say as you continue to learn more and read on about him and even watch him. You can see that he's got that switchability due to his size and everything. People often talk about his balanced high IQ as well, which is cool because I like to learn about how smart a guy is, especially for a guard. I'm not sure if he's more suited to a point guard position or shooting guard position, but regardless, you have to have a high IQ if you're a guard, full stop, and you're handling the rock. I view him more as like a point guard, but I'm not sure he's like that natural point guard. You'll see that like he's a smooth, sort of crafty operator with the ball. He's more finesse rather than physical at this point, I would say largely due to his frame. But if you look at Summer League, which I got a good close-up view of him, he was actually pretty aggressive, like even in attacking the paint and stuff of that nature. So maybe he's working on his body. Maybe he's working on building up that muscle, which he needs to do, which I'm sure he is doing. But if you continue to look at tape and just like watching highlights of him, or even lowlights, I always laugh at there's YouTube people that upload every single play, and it's called highlights and lowlights. So you get to see literally your favorite player be shit in some instances. Like you get to see what their challenges are. But I really rate that. Why not be transparent? Why not show struggles rather than just watching straight highlights of someone like Cade Cunningham, who I love? Why not show his downfalls and like just his turnovers and stuff he actually needs to work on? Because that paints the proper picture. Anyone can look good in highlights, as we know. But shooting and strength feels like the main challenges for him. You look at his numbers. Firstly, you look at his tape. His jump shot actually looks pretty good, like the form aspect of it all. And that is what a lot of people sort of talk about. They're like, hey, if you can't shoot, maybe it's your form. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Lonzo Ball, people like this. Markelle Fultz, you look at their form, you're like, well, no wonder they're shooting 20-something%. But this man is shooting 22% across his 2 seasons, which is not good. And I'm sure he'll tell you that it's not good. 2 attempted threes per game, so he's getting a few up. It's not like he's a volume shooter or anything like that. Once again, he's only getting 12 minutes a game last season, so he's not like he's having a great chance to even warm up and sort of be a main part in that Hawks rotation. But 22% is just something he's going to have to lift. And to me, that straight away says to me, hey, if he's going to have a consistent, positive impact in this league, strength and shooting are the main ones I see right now. But the other one is just health. Injuries. Look at his injury history. I don't think anything happened in college It's probably just once he came to the NBA. But rookie season, fractured thumb. Never a way you like to start off. Missed a bunch of time. Then last season, he got a toe sprain to begin with. Kept him out like 10 days or so, but I think that sort of made him come back up through the G League and all that. Then the big one, season-ending shoulder injury, that pretty much just kept him out the entire time, obviously, because that's what it's called. It's called actually season-ending. But pretty much that just tells me that he hasn't had a chance to fully flourish or even show what he's capable on this stage. So sometimes it's just about not fair chance. Sometimes it's not about if you're not good enough or whatnot. It just tells me that you actually need a shot. You need to be healthy, first and foremost, to actually do what you can do in this league. And he's only 21 years old, entering his third season. So it's easy to jump to conclusions and be like, well, maybe this guy, if he was 26 and doing this exact same thing, or 27 or something, like he's had his fair shot, he hasn't had injuries every single season, then maybe you can start talking about, okay, maybe the league isn't his place long term. Those type of talks, and I'm sure that's fair. But that man is 21 years old, so I think there's nothing to be too alarmed about. But there are some signs that you just want those. To me, you just want him to be healthy first and foremost. But secondly, you just want those 3-point averages to elevate. But recent activity, what has he done as of late? Summer League, Vegas. I came back from there around 2-3 weeks ago, and he was like the front man for Atlanta. Like, if you looked at Atlanta, he was bringing the ball up. He was playing 26, 27, 30 minutes, whatever. He was the main man on that team. He played pretty well. I mean, from an outlook, you look at the averages. 19 points a game, 5 boards a game, 4 assists per game, and 1 steal per game in Summer League across like maybe 4 games that he played. Awesome. That looks good. What do Summer League MVP numbers look like? I don't know, but he's up there in terms of one of the best Summer League sort of players and stats alone. But then, of course, you dive into it a bit more. I don't think turnovers are too much of an issue, but you look at the percentages, which, again, consistent theme popping up with Kobe. 25% from 3, even at Summer League, and he probably attempted a lot more than 2 a game, maybe like 4 a game from his regular season stuff. You'd imagine he was hoisting more up than he was regular season, and also 35% from the field goal, which isn't great. But in saying that, you love the aggression. I'm all about finding positives here. You go from that. That's what he's been doing as of late. This is kind of where I really like diving into who they are as people. So, I alluded to it at the start, but he was named after Kobe Bryant and idolized him growing up, apparently. And then I think maybe it has more to do with the name. People actually comment on like his mental toughness and intensity and that Mamba mentality that everyone talks about with Kobe. So that's kind of cool. And even scouts, it says here that scouts actually referred to him as Mamba-like in terms of his preparation and focus. And I will say, preparation, focus, and professionalism is something that constantly pops up when you look into Kobe, when you research him. People always talk about his maturity. He's kind of quiet off the court, but his maturity and professionalism and work ethic is something that gets mentioned multiple times in here, which paints a picture of who someone actually is, which I love. The muscle element, I mentioned this before, he's skinny, but he did add 15 pounds of muscle between his freshman and sophomore year at Michigan. And they've even said here, it shows his willingness to put in the work off the court and actually work on his body. So I have no doubt that even if he looks a bit skinny still, you would imagine the Hawk staff and being at this level in terms of those conditioning and resources as a pro, I'm sure he'll add more muscle. I mentioned his maturity, and even at a young age, people were talking about how mature and level-headed he was. I think he's kind of like a quiet dude off court, which I relate to. But the work ethic and professionalism seem to be on point. Like, they seem to be the main things that people talk about. And that is a perfect segue into the quotes. So you can find some quotes online about people that have worked with him, people that have looked at him over time, but it paints a proper picture of who he actually is. So, first one, Landry Fields, previous Atlanta Hawks general manager. I don't know when he must have left like midpoint last season or something. I know he's not there right now. Pretty confident. Quote, there are guys who love the game, and then there's guys who are in love with the game. This is a guy that is in love with the game, which is awesome. Once again, if you want to hear anything about a prospect or a player, even an older player, not a 21-year-old, if you have guys around you that clearly know you love the game or in love with the game, direct quote, That's great. That's nothing but a positive. It's just as like Hawk staffer / analyst from On3 and ESPN. So maybe it's like they worked for Atlanta and then they worked for On3. I don't know. And ESPN. This guy went around. I don't know. He did everything. Quote, when we spoke with him, he's just very mature in the way he sees the game. The feel, the IQ, the confidence. He can play off ball. He can play on ball. He defends. And that's big for us as well because he's young and still growing. So not a crazy good quote, but like it's good. It's just nothing mind-blowing. I could have probably left it out. But it just speaks to who he is and the confidence around him and the ability to do a bit of everything. Last one, The Ringer. They basically, when they're reviewing him as a prospect, I assume, before he got drafted or even as a potential like entering his first or second season, they actually compare him to shades of Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickly, sort of fused together. It says, but that's kind of cool that you can put two players in your mind at all-star level caliber, especially Emmanuel Quickly. Just a quick tangent here. If you listen to Zach Lowe, look at his most intriguing podcast, sort of like headline that he had maybe 2 episodes ago. And he has a cool like method of identifying intriguing players that he wants to watch next season. And you can't be a rookie, you can't be a sophomore, and you can't be an all-star. I really like that. It kind of niches down. And anyway, Emmanuel Quickly was one that he and Rob Mahone or someone that he was talking to identified. And the way they speak and the things they say about Quickly is kind of cool because it really makes you think that, hey, maybe he can be an all-star next season. So anyway, bit of a tangent there, but it just kind of shows you that this is the caliber of player that people might think Kobe Bufkin could turn into if all things go well. And I know that's saying a lot. If you're like, hey, Kobe Bufkin, he's going to go from this guy averaging 5 points in his sophomore season and turn into Tyrese Maxey or Emmanuel Quickly, but never say never. And health is a massive part of that. Anyway, the Ringer's quote was, dynamic two-way presence who will fill up highlight reels. If his jumper keeps trending up, he has all-star potential. There you go. Shades of Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickly fused together. Really cool stuff. Once again, it paints a picture of who he can become if all things click together. So my reaction of Kobe Bufkin, he was drafted 15 for a reason. Like, he's got that talent. To me, he's got that talent that he can become Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickly. I think they were both drafted higher, but there's talent there. Like, the reason you draft someone so high, and that is still very high, is because of the talent level and the potential. The P word in these discussions. And that's why it's fun. That's why it's fun. That's why I wanted to dive into Kobe, because I'm like, what if he does turn into Tyrese Maxey or someone like that down the road? It's cool to identify these people's journey. Personality, I literally can't find anything to like question his character, which is awesome, which is great about any prospect. Just the maturity, the professionalism. People just seem to rave about that and seem to never mention, like, you don't really hear a negative word about his attitude, which is awesome. The thing about his game, this is sort of like my underlying takeaway. There's no real superpower or swing skill that's actually going to make him stand out yet. And I'm not saying you probably need one, especially if you're a backup 1 or 2 off the bench. Maybe you don't need that superpower, but he doesn't have that right now for people to see that real potential. Once again, you look at Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickly, these guys can shoot the ball. The high volume takers right now, I know a lot of people are. They hoist up a lot of threes. But if Kobe can't really get that element of his game going, it's going to be a struggle for him to reach sort of like even like the heights of anywhere near those guys. Maybe not anywhere near, but those guys. Because 3-point shooting is just a massive thing, and he just doesn't have that superpower or swing skill yet. But I look forward to seeing how that develops. And who knows, that shoulder injury he had last season that kept him out the entire season once he had surgery, maybe that was affecting his shooting before that. Maybe that was affecting the 22 percentage, 3-point percentage from downtown. Maybe that was. You just don't know. But I will say, he looked very sort of confident and aggressive and assertive at Summer League. And I don't want to read too much into Summer League. Nobody does, but he did look pretty good. I see him as kind of like a 15 minutes a guy kind of guy next season off the bench. Hopefully, and this is all I'm saying, hopefully the man can just get healthy so we can see who he can actually become and who he is in this league. It is the main reason why we haven't seen what Kobe Bufkin can do. Health. To me, that's my ultimate takeaway from here. You can look at his stats. You can look at him being in his third season. You can look at him being drafted pretty damn high, and being like, why haven't we seen something yet from him in terms of not greatness, but just like potential, the glimpses of what he can become. So maybe we will see that. Maybe the third season, him entering his third season next season, maybe that's the season he's going to be healthy and really show us. But health and 3-point shooting is the main takeaway from Kobe. Hey, before I head, let me know what you think of this concept, because I think it's cool diving into players, especially like under the radar kind of guys. I don't know about you, but me as a fan, I kind of look at players in person very, very rarely. Summer league, there's been a few NBA games and in-person games that I've seen. But you look at them on screen, and sometimes you just stare at them. I did this a few seasons ago. I think it was amidst Paul George getting traded again or whatever. I looked at Paul George and I was like, who is Paul George actually as a person? Like, I kind of, maybe it's just, I don't know. I'm sure other people are like this, but the player side of things and who they actually are, I kind of get fascinated by, and what their potential can be. Even Paul George. Like, you look at someone like him, people know how great he is. People often call him their GOAT, the younger generation do, which still sounds funny to me, but all the credit to him. But sometimes you still look at him as like, do we appreciate how good players like Paul George is? Anyway, that's basically that's what this, I'll call it a series if it continues, if I enjoy doing it, and I did, so you're probably going to see more of it. But that's why I kind of do it. Dive into who these players are, open their case file, their player profile, so to speak, and just see what's in it, essentially.